accountable, because these various 100 wards in and around eThekwini, most of the wards are facing serious challenges. Now, since then, Asad, I know you were quite vocal about improving service delivery. You had some heated challenges with the previous mayors, with the previous city managers, with the heads of departments, because they made all kinds of promises, and there was very little or no service delivery. And I know in some instances there were, huge arguments in this sort of various venues where your organization hosted the city politicians and officials. Perhaps you want to give us a brief update, Asad, on from then and now. Have you all made any inroads? Did you all find an improvement in service delivery? And from your perspective and the members that are with you even up till now, what is their perception of service delivery from the eThekwini municipality?
Thanks, Brother Yunus. Look, the challenges will always remain for as long as we are around. As you rightfully pointed out, the officials come, officials go, mayors come, mayors go, and they all make promises and very little gets done. In fact, this new mayor recently, we put him under pressure to host a meeting, a one-on-one meeting with our organization, which he obviously skirted, and then called for a mass meeting with all ratepayers associations. And I can tell you that the meeting between us and the officials didn't go down very well. They got very upset when we said it like it was, and the fact that a lot of the promises that were made were not fulfilled. And then the mayor went about and met with some other ratepayers associations, obviously those that are aligned to him, even though those same organizations previously met with the other mayor, who promised them the world. And to date, none of that has, come to fruition. But this is what we're dealing with. And the reality on the ground is that service delivery is not at the standard that it needs to be. And when you put it into perspective, and I think this is very important for people to realize, when we talk about tariff increases and we talk about electricity or we talk about water, and you must understand that for those who are paying, you are paying for those who are not paying. And that in itself is problematic. So if you understand that eThekwini non-revenue water is sitting at over 56%, and of the 56%, you can safely say that 15% of that goes to indigent, meaning those who can't pay for water, and we know that water is a basic human right, and we don't have an issue for that. But the challenge then becomes that the bulk of it is not being metered, meaning it's just being used. Communities are stealing water, etc., and then the rest who are paying are actually paying double because you're paying for those who are not willing to pay. Similarly, for electricity, it's exactly the same. So the municipality will buy electricity from Eskom, and if they get a bill of, say, 10 billion or 5 billion a month, you as the consumer, they will make sure that they get that money out from you, from those who are paying. And it's becoming problematic because many people now can't even afford electricity and water. And if you're looking at those who are pensioners, they're receiving only 2,200 rand per month, and the eThekwini bill is around 1,500. So what is there for them to, left for them to go and buy food, or if they're renting, etc.? It's a huge challenge. And if you're looking at the day-to-day issues, the burst water pipes, the roads that are crumbling, the dirt and the waste that's not being collected, really it's falling apart. I mean, no one can safely say there's been an improvement. In fact, when the mayor first took over, for the first week or 2 weeks, or even you can call it a month, the city center looked spick and span. You can go to the city center today; it's back to normal. It's exactly how it was 6 months ago. So they're just coming in, just for the sake of coming and showing what they can do, but they're not consistent, and there's no ways that this sort of intervention where as a mayor you would come and put all resources into the city center, make it look nice for the first month, and then after that you don't have the resources to maintain that. We're basically blowing bubbles, and that's exactly what it is.
Thanks, Asad. I think you set the scene for some critical issues in service delivery around basic services of electricity and water and the cost thereof, and the non-revenue, which is 56%, and tariff increases worsens the situation. And perhaps later on we'll touch on human settlements, and people have to meet the rental, because without shelter you can't acquire electricity and water. But I want to bring Councillor Ramona McKenzie in. Councillor, I'm not sure for how long you've been a ward councillor. I presume maybe 2 terms already or longer. Just 1 term, the first term. Okay, and obviously you are one of 200 councillors. The ward councillor, Ward 31, and those that elected you are looking at you as an individual to deal with some of the challenges that are not being dealt with. Before we ask you a few tricky questions, I'm not one of those people ask tricky questions, but what I'd like you to tell our listeners is that, what's your observations and experiences thus far as a councillor? I know that, politically there are a lot of challenges in eThekwini, but obviously you got your book that guides you what a councillor should do. So maybe you can highlight to our listeners, a lot of them are in Ward 31 listening, as to what's your observations as a councillor for your first term of office.
So basically, I started as a councillor, as a PR councillor, in fact, in the Hillcrest area. I was a PR councillor there for a year. And then I was elected as the ward councillor thereafter. I think that was in 2021. And this is my first term. I got to be a councillor because I had passion to assist people. And my main goal was to just make sure that I have people happy, smiling and giving them the service that they deserve. Unfortunately, being the councillor of Ward 31, it's a pleasure. But having the challenges that we have with the municipality, it's disastrous. Because there's so much that we are doing that we're not supposed to do. Like, for instance, you see me at burst pipes. I'm not supposed to go out to a burst pipe. I'm supposed to escalate. The municipality is supposed to come out and do the work. But we have become call centers. We have become plumbers. We've become technicians. We've become all sorts of departmental officials. And for me, it's really stressful because, and I think that we need to maybe speak more on what the role is. My role is to basically make sure that services come to the people and that the people get the services. But it's very difficult because at times the departments do not do what they're supposed to do. For instance, within the Parks Department, I'll give you an example. We've had about 6 managers rotation. Instead of having one manager who knows what's happening in that ward, and we have a district, we fall under District 7, and District 7 I think it has about 8 wards, if I'm not mistaken, and we're supposed to get services from the Parks Department and the manager in charge. But now when we direct our complaints to Parks Department with our ward, a specific ward, the manager will be there for 1 month and thereafter he's rotated. The next manager will come in. The manager that was there previously will not then communicate on the services. So we've got to have a meeting every single month or every 3rd month whenever that rotation takes place, because they're not communicating and they're not giving feedback or handing over what was previously discussed with the councillor or Sometimes the Ratepayers Association will go with me to the department to voice their opinions and give feedback or make suggestions. So that's just one of the issues. And as you know, I'm a female, and going to a burst pipe in the middle of the night is quite dangerous. But sometimes we have to, because we do not get feedback from the departments. And not every official, I'm not highlighting every official to be incompetent. There are those competent officials, and sometimes wish they would be working in the evenings as well, because we get the answers during the day, and those once they're off duty, we don't get answers, in the evening. So, and then also one of the other challenges is that when we go to a burst, when we're not at a burst pipe or on site, we do not know what plumbers are on site, and we do not know when those plumbers get on site. So there's no communication from the department to say, "Councillor, we've received this report, and now officials are on site." So if we could get that feedback, it would make it easier for us as councillors to actually give feedback to the residents. And most of the time, we beg for answers. And by the time we get the answers, it's too late, because the residents are actually frustrated. So there's a lot of challenges when it comes to reporting back to residents from officials.
So, since your appointment as a ward councillor, you've just faced enormous challenges with different service deliverables that have to be dealt with. And as far as you are concerned, you put in a situation where you got to respond beyond your normal call of duty. Now, I know you work closely with the Ward 31 or Port Ratepayers Association, and I want to bring in Ashok. Ashok, I recall that you all have formed a chat group in Ward 31 together with Abdul, and there's a host of service delivery issues that are coming up in the chat group. I'm a member, and whenever there's a problem related to water, and that seems to be in the main that's coming up, because every street, every day has got some concern regarding water. And I see they say no water, or water hasn't come in for the last 3 days. And this afternoon, I went to the dentist in Sparks Road, and he told me, I can't do much because I don't have water. And then in the Overport area, there wasn't water. Lucky those that have boreholes are, accessing water. So Ashok, on your side, I know you've been working closely in supporting Councillor Mackenzie. And at the same time, you guys are on the ground, not only on the sort of cleaning side of things, like making sure the verges are cut and the roads are swept, because you all had We Feed South Africa assisting in the last a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, your guys are hands-on whenever there's any dangers on the road, some manholes, covers are missing. But the water situation seems to be a major problem in Ward 31. I'm sure in other wards as well. Your observations from the Ratepayers Association point of view, because I see there's a lot of residents of ratepayers that are raising serious comments about service deliveries, but water seems to be the main problem, the outages.
Yeah, thank you very much. So I just want to say that the councillor has given us a quick rundown about what her responsibilities are. And I think many of the residents of the different wards really don't know what the responsibilities of ward councillors are. And hearing what our councillor has said us this evening, I think there needs to be a separate program just purely unpacking that type of responsibility, because it's a treacherous responsibility, because that individual is getting beaten from both ends, and we blame the councillor, and the councillor cannot get anything done through the municipality, and they are between a rock and a hard place. So I do feel pity for you, councillor, now, and knowing and understanding better. So yes, I'm going to go back to Sunday when the woes of our water started in Ward 31 and other wards as well. They started slowly trickling on that Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and it peaked today. And the peaking eventually surfaced its problem by two burst pipes on the Lupin Road and Narina Road, which came out through the R.D. Naidu Road, and it burst open. And that created the water issue in the Ward 31 area. So our taps ran dry. But parallel to that, there was a plan in place to clean the reservoir, and that was scheduled, but it was unannounced.
Which reservoir was this, Ashok? Was it the Durban Heights or the Wiggins one?
The Sherwood one.
Sherwood one.
Yes. So that was scheduled for maintenance for cleaning up. And there was a switch across to the backup reservoir, which apparently seamlessly went through. But all eyes went onto the cleaning as the fault for the water not coming through our pipes. But the problem sat with the Lupin and the Narina Road burst pipes that was pouring itself out through onto RD Naidu Road. So those areas that were affected were Overport, Asherville, and Sydenham, and many of you all have experienced that today. We also still don't have water, and that could be many reasons, because we are aware, and the councillor has assured us that the pipes have been repaired. The ORA chairman also has confirmed that on the group that the pipes are repaired and replaced, some of them. So the issue, like we probably suspect, could be the valves, but that check is currently taking place, and we're hoping that we'll be getting water coming through our pipes soon, or if not sooner. And the issue of the water should ease itself off. There are lots of frustrated people. There are tankers around Ward 31 in the Asherville, Sydenham, and Overport area. Getting access to them is not easy, because there could be one or two trucks circling around those areas, and they cannot get to everybody. As I was driving into the studio, I could see many buckets on the pavement waiting for these water tankers to come through to be filled up from. So hopefully those individuals will start getting some water either through the pipe, or if they see tankers, then they're going to get that coming through to them. But I think my personal view is that Overport or Ward 31's infrastructure has deteriorated to such a level that no matter how much of patching we do, we call it patch and go. I call it patch and go, really. And that's not working, because as it patches, something else breaks, and it just carries on and on and on. I think what the municipality needs to do is they need to send in investigators, assess the infrastructure, the sewer system, the water system, the stormwater system, the electricity system in our area, put out a report, and if it needs to be replaced, then there should be a plan put forward. Funding should be found through various mechanisms that the municipality is very okay with, and that should start taking place. Otherwise, this is going to be a forever ongoing problem that we are going to be having in the Overport, Asherville, and Sydenham area.
Thanks, Ashok.
Yeah, just
I want to bring in Asad. I know Asad got time constraint. Asad, ERPM has been raising issues on meter readings, and it's becoming a major problem. A lot of these meter readers are just guessing and putting in figures that may not be correct. Lots of residents have complained that they get a water account of like 25,000 Rand when their normal water bill is about 700 Rand. And when they check their meters, the meter reader puts an incorrect reading, which is like about 6 months ahead of the time. And this is a normal occurrence for electricity and water, but there's also billing issues. That's a huge problem. Now, I know you all been very verbose, Asad, on this aspect where you've actually encouraged residents, stop paying if you do get these type of bills, over and above the fact that, the tariffs are too high, people cannot afford it. What's your organization's position in terms of the reading of these water and electricity meetings and the billing challenges that residents are facing in and around eThekwini?
Thanks, Yunus. Yeah, I think that's a very important and interesting question that you're raising. Given the fact that there is a standard operating procedure or policy in place by the municipality itself, in which it states that the meters need to be read every 60 odd days or so. Now, it's a policy that they developed. There's also the Municipal Systems Act, which governs how often the meters need to be read. Because again, you pay what you use. There can't be estimates, and we've been allowing them to estimate accounts for a very long time. And as a ratepayers association, we're not accepting that. We've had several meetings with senior management and with obviously with the city manager and deputy city managers, the CFOs and assistant CFOs and financial people from eThekwini. We've raised this issue. So the position that we are taking is, if the municipality can't send out meter readers, then the municipality must accept when a resident submits their reading. They can't have it both ways. So either they send someone to read the meter. If they can't send someone, then we will submit our readings and you will accept the reading. When you do get someone to come and read the meter, you can audit that meter and you can do the adjustment. So that's the position that we've taken. We've also encouraged residents to use their eThekwini app to submit their readings. The municipality is now also pushing that. They're encouraging lots of people to use the app. It gives you the advantage of submitting your readings. So we would encourage every resident to use the system so that you prevent this estimate billing. Estimate billings is a huge concern, and especially for those individuals who pick up a water leak after 6-7 months, sometimes up to 2.5-3 years. And you find that bill is over 100,000 Rand. Had that meter been read regularly, you would have picked up the leak much quicker, and the amount wouldn't be that high. So, and this is where it becomes more interesting. When a person gets affected by these high water bills, and in most instances, we have identified it to be a water leak. When they go to a customer care center, that person sitting on the other side of the counter is not giving the correct advice to the resident. They simply tell them, pay, enter into an agreement and leave. They're not looking at the bill. They're not checking for water leaks. And in most instances, people enter into a payment agreement, and 6 months later, they're faced with another high bill. And this is what's frustrating everyone. Now, the reason why we're talking about this is when those individuals come to us, we then do the due diligence on those accounts, identify positively that there has been a water leak or there is a water leak on that property. We've partnered with a company called Detect a Leak, and they obviously giving favorable rates to those who obviously come to our offices. They go do the leak test, fix the leak, and then we help them to submit the water loss insurance. Now, this is a function that's supposed to be done by the city, not by us. But no one, the customer care centers are not helping people, and that's where the problem is. Yunus, if you don't mind, I just want to touch on something.
Correct. No, go ahead, Asad.
So, we talk about these burst water pipes that are frequenting many wards and many suburbs. The biggest problem that we have, and I was chatting with the councillor just before you came, and it's something that we totally support and we totally agree. This issue of contracting out is a huge problem. Previously, the work was being done in-house, and it was a lot quicker and a lot cheaper. And we need to get back to that. This issue of contracting is where the problem starts. It's where all these issues are. In most instances, you'll find if the contractor is not getting enough work from the city, they know where the valves are, they increase the pressure in the system, the main lines burst, and they're definitely getting a job to fix that. So we need to move away from this contracting. Another issue that we're facing in all suburbs, and I think the community need to be aware of this. The city for a while now has been saying that there's a shortage of water. We all know that. So what the city does is they shut off certain reservoirs in order to fill up another reservoir. And this opening and closing and shutting off of the main water pipes is the main reason why you will continue to have burst water pipes. When they shut it off, air enters the system. When they open it, it airlocks, it bursts pipes. I feel sorry for the communities that are affected by this, and it's mainly the aged infrastructure. It can't handle this. It's like the transformers. When we had load shedding, you were finding transformers were blowing up. Similarly, when you find that they close off the reservoirs, when they open the valves again, those pipes are going to break. So it's something that we need to push hard. Obviously, from a council point of view, having these discussions on the ground in the council chambers, because again, it's affecting people's lives. I mean, you come home from work, you want to cook a meal or have a shower, and then there's no water or there's no electricity. It's really frustrating.
Now, Asad, you mentioned an interesting comment on the issue of when consumers go to Praya Road, to the water department, and they indicate that they got a high bill, and this is as a result of an underground burst pipe or whatever. And on the other side of the counter, the individuals don't know what's happening. And we're going to chat about the competency of officials later on in the program. What I recall from my understanding when I was a senior manager in consolidated billing, we used to do what we call trapping of accounts when individuals have high water or electricity charges, which is under dispute. So what you do is you trap the account so that you don't get these meter readers and these individuals involved in disconnection going in and disconnecting the supply of electricity. Because in the consolidated bill, the law allows, if you don't pay for one service, you can disconnect. For example, if you don't pay water and you don't pay rental, if it's a consolidated bill, you can disconnect electricity as a first line of, sort of punishment. But that's not prevalent. Now, Asad, what you've alluded to was the fact that there's a deterioration on maintenance of infrastructure, because prior to 2015, when experienced officials were working in the eThekwini municipality, and the head water was a gentleman by the name of Neil MacLeod. I recall during our reign, every Monday we used to have a meeting with all the departmental heads in City Hall, and then subsequently it was in Moses Mabhida Stadium, where the city manager used to ask for report back on infrastructure challenges. And Neil MacLeod was very verbose on the water issue. And he made sure during, the budget allocation in the CapEx or capital budget for water, he used to have planned maintenance on the replacement of pipes in the different areas and aqueducts, etc. And sometimes, there used to be a question, and I'm raising this, Asad, because there seems to be some concern on lack of budgeting processes since that date. And those officials that are there maybe are highly incompetent and they don't know what a budget means. And you mentioned, Councillor, to me that don't talk about finance. And I happen to be a finance man then, not really an administrator. I recall that those departmental heads that used to submit their budgets, both CapEx and operating, used to motivate why they needed that. And Neil MacLeod was very verbose, and he had that water department ticking, and it was unheard of, like burst water pipes. And if there was a burst water pipe, because of the internal capacity, it used to be dealt with timelessly. So the issue of water and electricity outages, you had Howard Whitehead as the head water, and I'm not trying to be racist here, but these guys knew exactly how to run those departments together with the officials. So obviously later on in the program, we'll touch, Councillor, on the competency of officials, because that's a major problem. But Asad, I know you need to leave soon. Your engagement with the different mayors and the promises they have made, and more recently with Cyril Kaba, the new mayor who's been deployed in place of Kaunda. And I think you've been through 3 or 4 mayors that made all kinds of promises, and none of them could deliver. I'd like to clearly, I'm just going to touch before you leave on one of the reports coming through that eThekwini is edging closer to being placed under administration. We know that 154, Dr. Mike Sutcliffe and one other is handling that part, and the presidential task team is also looking at those issues. And I interviewed somebody from those teams, and there's challenges there as well. So your interaction, Asad, with the different mayors over the period of time and the promises that have been made, do you believe that it was just promises that were not really implemented? And do you believe that the real cause is that the officials inside are not doing their work that will continue if that is not being attended to?
I think it's a combination of all, to be honest with you, Yunus. And again, it comes back to the budgeting. So it's not that there is a little bit of incompetence, if you want to put it that way, but there's a lot of insider happening which shouldn't be happening. That is the biggest problem. So money is being moved around for stuff that's not related to the running of the municipality, and the correct amount of money is not being allocated to the different departments. I just want to touch on one thing as an example, which we have raised, and we've raised it with the MEC for COCTA as well. In fact, I'm sure you're aware that we, as an organization,
Yeah, you all met with him.
we called for an urgent meeting with him, and we raised the concern with him insofar as eThekwini is concerned. Every paying consumer, is paying an infrastructure surcharge, right? You'll see it on your bill. Everyone is paying for it. It's not shown as a line item in the budget, meaning they don't answer for it. So they're collecting this money, but they're not telling you what they're collecting it for and where it's being used. And for us, that is a concern. Because if you look at the amount of money that is being collected, they're telling you they're collecting it to build a dam. Fair enough, you want to build a dam. But it's like putting a taxi can only take 13 passengers as an example. Now the pipes can only take a certain amount of water to fill a reservoir. So now you want to put 30 people in a taxi. It's not going to work. The infrastructure that you had 15, 20 years ago cannot carry the same amount of water that is required in that suburb, meaning you have to upgrade. So you have to upgrade the infrastructure to prevent all of these issues. But this eThekwini doesn't have the foresight to think about all of these things, and they don't have the real commitment to make the city work. And that is the biggest challenge that we have. We need committed people. In my view, I don't think this mayor is the right mayor. I mean, we've been begging him to have a meeting with us. It's strange. I mean, he just doesn't. He's avoiding us because he knows we'll put him in a corner. But I mean, if he was genuine and he was true to his word and wanting to make the city work, he will listen to the concerns. The fact that he does not want to meet with us shows you that he doesn't have a real commitment to making things better. So for us, I mean, we will continue the fight. We won't give up. There's a lot of work that still needs to be done. And again, we commend the councillors that are on the ground. I mean, Councillor Rabona, poor thing, she works very hard. I saw on social media this evening at the burst water pipe. And she's right. I mean, she shouldn't be doing that. But, the community expects the councillor to be on the ground. And if the councillor is not on the ground, then the councillor is useless. And that's the mentality people have. But the reality is the official's supposed to do this. And she's right when she says, I am the plumber, I am the supervisor, I am the call center. And if I don't respond to the community, then I'm the bad person. And that's what it's come down to.
Asad, before you leave, I know we got 5 minutes left. Section 154 is currently taking place. Dr. Mike Sutcliffe and his colleague have done a diagnostic report. You have what we call a presidential task team that has been in operation since November last year. I interviewed Brother Imran Patel last week to give us a feedback. That task team is headed by former MEC, together with the former DG of the President's Office, comprising of business and civic organizations. They're running parallel. There was some concern that there's an overlap between those two processes. But recently, the KZN COCTA expressed concern, that was on Wednesday the 19th or Thursday the 19th of September, that the state of administration in the municipality wasn't improving, and that could lead to an escalated intervention by the provincial government. And they're saying that the eThekwini municipality is edging closer to be placed under administration by the provincial government, with the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs warning that governance in the municipality has deteriorated. Your closing comments in that regard. Do you think the process of Section 154 parallel with the presidential task team should continue, or do you believe that might sheer be a waste of time and they should go into administration to really improve service delivery?
I think what the MEC for COGTA is doing is the correct process. And in terms of governance, they have the mandate to oversee the municipality, and rightfully so, because I mean, if a municipality is not performing at the required level, then the MEC, that's his mandate. He's supposed to step in, and we made it clear when we met with the MEC as well, that should he fail not to intervene, we have no problems and we have no qualms. We'll go to the Premier, because that for us is the process. And if the Premier of KZN can't fix, then we will have to go to the National MEC for COGTA, because somebody has to put a stop to this. We can't carry on like this. Seriously, we just cannot carry on like this. It is unacceptable. It's becoming unaffordable. It's becoming frustrating. And they just happily, merrily going on as if everything is fine. And it's not. It's seriously broken, and they must accept the fact. I mean, all of these reports, I mean, we've managed to have a view on some of these reports. They're claiming it to be leaked. But they talk about all of the seriousness of the maladministration, the misappropriation of funds, etc., etc. And even the AG report itself talks about all of this. So it's not something that we're making up. It's the reality, and it needs to stop. And that's the bottom line.
So you say consequential management is not taking place, and that becomes necessary now in view of the situation in eThekwini. So some drastic steps have to take place.
100%.
Okay, Asad, I think we close on a news break. We will continue after the discussion. We thank you for joining us, Asad, and sharing some very important information. We congratulate you and your organization for being so bold and not accepting, any compromise situation, and continue with the struggle. This was a struggle that took place pre-apartheid when, the comrades went about, forcing the government to change. And this is a way we can improve service delivery. We thank you, and we encourage you to continue, and your organization to continue with the sterling work that you all are doing. Thank you very much, Asad. On that note, we'll take a news break. We went in for a good 45-minute chat. And after the news break, we'll continue our discussion with Councillor Mackenzie, ORA, and indeed our economist who's joined us in the studio.
Radio Al-Ansar, 24/7, 365.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al-Ansar News.
Breaking news, days are the 25th of September. The news from Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Maritzburg 105.6 FM. Police hunts for suspect involved in Shallcross robbery. America Wanina. Police continue their search for over a dozen suspects linked to a cash-in-transit robbery in Shallcross. It is alleged that the heavily armed suspect opened fire on a cash van at a shopping center earlier in the week. KwaZulu-Natal Hawk spokesperson Simple Mhlongo says once the vehicle stopped, they thereafter used explosives to blow open the back of the van. Reporters, the suspect disarmed the security guards of their service pistols and rifles. They made off with an undisclosed amount of cash, and no one was injured, and police are investigating. More news. The Johannesburg emergency teams have recovered the body of a woman in the Midrand complex that was engulfed by fire last night. Search and rescue teams had been searching for one person reported missing. One person sustained injuries and was taken to the hospital. Johannesburg Emergency Services spokesperson Olile Kumalu has this to say.
Did the firefighting until 4 o'clock this morning. So they then came back again, a different team, to relieve the one that left at 4 o'clock. To think around about 12 o'clock, the team has recovered a body of a female that was submerged under rubble and roof material that collapsed last night. So up to so far, the body that has been recovered is the only person that has been reported missing. So the search and rescue team will terminate their search shortly. Nobody else has come forward with information that their family members are also missing. On record, we only have one patient that was transported to a nearby hospital, I believe Karstenhof, last night, who sustained the injuries. We are not sure how the injuries were sustained, but the person is in hospital right now. And
more news now. The Namibian woman found to have swallowed over 60 pellets of suspected cocaine appeared at the Kempton Park Magistrate Court. The 30-year-old was arrested at OR Tambo International Airport the past weekend. Law enforcement agents intercepted a flight from Brazil. The woman was taken to hospital for x-rays and some of the drugs were successfully extracted. Atlanta Mate, police spokesperson, has this to say.
For quite some time, our members have been following up on intelligence of drug mules that are coming into country carrying drugs. So on Sunday, we received intelligence that this particular lady would land just after 7:25, and she would be carrying drugs with her. So we immediately mobilized a team, and as she was moving through the immigration channels, we immediately intercepted her. We took her through to a local hospital where a medical examination confirmed that she had foreign objects in her stomach. So the medical practitioners gave her something, obviously, to release that. Was taken back to be monitored by police while that process unfolds. It's important to highlight that at all our ports of entries, we do have those facilities where medical practitioners would give these drug mules something to release, and we would be able to obviously then confiscate it and ensure that we seize it.
More news now. Basic Education Minister Sivuyo Gwarube is providing an update on budget cuts in a department that could potentially leave thousands of teachers without jobs. However, Gwarube says there will be no teacher to be retrenched. She's explaining.
So several provinces have preserved the same basket of purse for the past 3 academic years, despite the fact that learner numbers are increasing, while other provinces have decreased the purse in the past 3 years. It is important that when we're talking about the retention of posts or decreased posts, we mean that these have been cut in posts and not in warm bodies. So let me explain, meaning that no person or teacher is retrenched, but it means that often posts or vacancies that appear or that come into the system are then not filled. And this is an important distinction because often people are saying teachers are being retrenched. But ultimately, where there are vacancies, we must fill them in order for us to protect the system.
Your international story. People in Kashmir have started casting their ballots in the second round of regional elections amid elaborate security measures. Polling stations opened earlier today as the region's 8.7 million registered voters prepared for electing their first local government under heavy security since the 2019 cancellation of the Muslim-majority territory's special semi-autonomous status by the government in New Delhi. In the biggest regional main city of Srinagar, some voters queued outside polling stations early in the morning today as the paramilitary troops stood guard at polling booths and patrolled largely the deserted streets. Now, turnout is expected to be high, unlike in the past elections when the separatists opposed to Indian rule boycotted polls. Reporters back in August, India announced 3-phased assembly elections in the Kashmir region. Last week, the mountainous territory witnessed the first phase of its assembly election for 24 seats in the 6 districts. Now, the polls were the first for the region's assembly in a decade. The third phase of the polling will be held on the 1st of October, with results expected to be declared on the 8th of October. Your weather, it's 22 degrees. A quick reminder of our top story. Police are continuing their search for a dozen of suspects linked to a cash and transit robbery in Charles Cross. That's the news.
Welcome to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio. Our TV department carries top brands with quality LED panels, full HD to Ultra HD, and now the experience of Super Ultra HD. Visit our theater rooms and transform your home with brands like Onkyo, Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031-306-4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
Discover Village Meats, where craft, convenience, and taste come together. From the finest cuts to delicious ready-to-cook options, we bring quality to your table every day. Visit us for personalized service and the freshest selection. Elevate your meals with Village Meats, your trusted neighborhood butchery, located at Village Market, Westville. Craft, convenience, taste. That's Village Meats.
Spend 400 rands or more to win with Checkers Foods Kawi Park and Radio Al-Ansar. You could be one of 8 weekly winners of a Philips 6.2-liter air fryer or a Weber Bryce stand valued at over 2,000 rand. Hop into Checkers Foods Kawi Park, shop, drop your till slip into the entry box, and wait for your name to be announced on air. That's it. Checkers Foods Kawi Park, certified by the NIHT, the National Independent Halal Trust, across the butchery, bakery, and deli. T's and C's apply.
At this time of trial and worry, the blessings of charity are the ideal means to avoid calamity and despair. The Al-Imdad Foundation gives you the opportunity to sponsor a share in a borehole in South Africa for just 1,000 rand and provide what the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, called the best form of charity. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243 for more information.
Discover a world of financial wisdom. From centuries-old traditions to modern wealth, our innovative Sharia banking offerings ensure you can grow and secure your legacy while staying true to your values. Let us guide you on your journey to virtuous financial well-being and help you bank with purpose. Search Standard Bank Sharia Banking to learn more. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Your journey starts here. Embrace an unforgettable adventure through magical Pakistan departing October 15. Visit the Badshahi Mosque in Lahore, the gardens of Islamabad. Experience the natural beauty of Skardu and the clear blue Attabad Lake of Hanza. Flights, transfers, visas, 4-star accommodation, daily breakfast, dinner, and guided city tours. Call 031-001-7062 or visit 55 Problem Kiza Road, Durban. Worldview Travel.
Transform your space with exquisite pieces from Bulbous Furniture. We stock a wide range of stylish furniture and appliances from the world's biggest brands. We offer the best deals on beds, headboards, home furniture, and home appliances. Visit one of our lifestyle superstores in Pietermaritzburg, Newcastle, or Ladysmith and immerse yourself in everything your home needs, or shop online at www.bowersfurn.com with quick and efficient delivery to you.
Education, health, dignity, empowerment. These wishes all begin with water. Africa Muslims Agency is committed to providing clean water to the thousands who still live without this basic human right. Support us in giving the best of charities. Provide a water well for 16,500 rand or a borehole for 55,000 rand in Afghanistan or 65,000 rand in Africa. Gain Thawabi Jariyah and help communities to reach their full potential. Africa Muslims Agency, empowering, educating, inspiring.
This segment is brought to you by Kenfield Auto, your RMI approved service and repair specialist. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Kenfield Auto.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. ربنا أتمم لنا نورنا واغفر لنا إنك على كل شيء قدير.
Car won't start?
Can feel auto.
Noisy brakes?
Can feel auto.
Due for a service?
Can feel auto.
Kenfield Auto, the answer to all your car problems. Your service and repair specialist for your VW, Audi, Suzuki, Toyota, or just about any vehicle. Kenfield Auto, your RMI and insurance approved workshop to handle them all. 236 Brickfield Road, Overport. Call us on 031 207 2399. Kenfield Auto.
Radio Al-Ansar, Durban, 90.4 FM. Peter Maritzburg, 105.6 FM.
وما أرسلناك إلا رحمة للعالمين. And we have not sent you, O Muhammad, except as a mercy to the worlds. فلک کے نظاروں زمین کی بہاروں سبھی دے مناؤ حضور آ گئے اٹھو بے سہاروں چلو غم کے مارو خبر یہ سناؤ حضور آ گئے ہیں حضور آ گئے 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 انوکھا نرالا پوزیشن آیا وہ سارے رسولوں کے سلطان آیا سلطان آیا ارے بادشاہ ہو ارے کج گلا ہو نگاہیں جھکاؤ حضور آ گئے 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 ہوا چار سور ہے امتوں کا بسیرا اجالا اجالا سویرا 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 حلیمہ کو پہنچی خبر آمنہ کی میرے گھر میں آؤ حضور آ گئے ہیں حضور آ گئے 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 حضور آ گئے. Abundant salutations upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, who lives in the hearts of billions. हमने आंखों से देखा नहीं है मगर हमने आंखों से देखा नहीं है मगर उनकी तस्वीर सीने में मौजूद है. जिसने ला कर दिया है कलामे खुदा, जिसने ला कर दिया है कलामे खुदा, वो मुहम्मद मदीने में मौजूद है. फूल खिलते हैं पढ़ पढ़ के सल्ले अला, फूल खिलते हैं पढ़ पढ़ के सल्ले अला, झूम कर कह रही है ये बातें सबा. ऐसी खुशबू चमन के गुलों में कहाँ,
ऐसी खुशबू चमन के गुलों में कहाँ जो नबी के पसीने में मौजूद है। हमने माना कि जन्नत बहुत है हंसी, हमने माना कि जन्नत बहुत है हंसी।
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International, broadcasting on the frequency Durban 90.4 FM, Peter Marisburg 105.6 FM, and audio streaming on www.alansar.org.za. Before the news break, we were chatting with Brother Asad Ghaffar, and who gave us a report back on ERPM eThekwini ratepayers protest movement response to service delivery challenges, his meetings with the different mayors. And his organization will continue the struggle. They still strongly believe that the city is far from efficient service delivery. And he's actually supporting that eThekwini should be placed under administration given the current situation. Some of the politicians may differ, and there's a feeling out there that let the new mayor deal with issues together with the teams that are supporting the municipality, and let's take it from there. But I'd like to bring back Councillor Ramona McKenzie. Councillor Asad was mentioning that a lot of the problems in eThekwini, and during your reign of office thus far, you've indicated that in Ward 31, you've been asked to do a lot of work that the officials should be doing. I mean, if contractors are appointed to do the piece of work, they should know exactly what they are doing. And before the water is switched on, they must make sure that, the systems are working and that you don't have further problems. And the report back mechanism to residents is a huge problem. Now, in terms of, I mentioned briefly about the billing challenges. Asad mentioned that a lot of elderly people are going to these various municipal offices and they're being pushed around and they're getting these large bills. Many of them are sick, suffering from heart conditions. And when they get the high bills and they don't have any bank balances to deal with this issue, the disappointment comes in when they are facing a disconnection of electricity as a result of these areas. You yourself mentioned that you take these people to the offices, and when you go there, the lack of knowledge, the lack of empathy on the part of officials, and the fact that they just throw the rule book at these people without first understanding the problem is cause for concern over and above the various problems the municipalities face. Perhaps you want to comment, exactly what do you believe as a councillor should be taking place? Do you believe that these officials are not adequately trained? Are they incompetent? Or what is the problem with poor service delivery in terms of the billing function amongst the hundreds of other problems?
Well, I must say that I'm happy that the app has been introduced, because then residents can report, on their own. But it also is a disservice to those residents that cannot report because they do not know how to even operate an app, the app, and utilize those services. So for me, yes, I have made it my duty to take, especially our elderly people, to the electricity department. At times, I have assisted in that manner. I've experienced sometimes sitting for 3 to 4 hours, 5 hours, just waiting for an official to assist us. And when they do come and assist, the view is different compared to when the elderly person went on their own. Because sometimes I feel as though they just shunted off, and they just requested to pay the bill without proper investigation. And I have personally helped some of the elderly residents and taken them to the department, and we find that most of the time it's a water leak and they didn't know, or they did know, and assist them to actually investigate. The account gets put on hold for the duration of the investigation, and that's what should initially happen. They shouldn't be sent from one department to the next. And that's what basically does happen with the departments. I'm not sure whether it's a lack of knowledge or whether it's just pure laziness. but maybe it's both. I'm not sure. But sometimes also the systems fail and they don't work properly, and that causes also a lot of challenges. But we have since had a program in the Sydenham area where for the Ward 31 on a whole, we saw lots of residents from other areas as well that were assisted. We had the municipality come in, we prepared a hall for them, and they assisted residents with their billing. So we took it upon ourselves to make sure that the services come to the residents instead of them waiting in long queues. We did the same with the SASA. So we've tried, well, I've tried with the Ratepayers Association chairperson. His name is Carl. He assists me in the Sydenham area. And we basically offer these services to everybody in the ward. Sometimes it's very difficult to get a hall in the other areas. And we'd like to do this across the board. But I just feel that why should we campaign and and offer these services within the ward when they're readily available at the workplace? Why is it that we must now then again do the job or the work of an official? But sometimes it's not the officials themselves. It's a lack of resources that becomes a challenge in most of the time. And yes, he was correct in saying that some of the officials are not reading the meters, and that becomes a challenge. We've also had makeshift officials where they come with the badge, a false badge, and pretend to be officials, which endangers, the residents, the life of a resident, because you don't know who is. In today's society, there's so much crime and there's so much violence that we tend not to want to allow, especially those residents that have meters within their boundaries. So it's really challenging for residents, when it comes to the billing and the meters, and especially having to replace a water meter becomes a challenge also. So with the adjustment of the account, that is also problematic, because then your bill is increased and then you don't get that the interest waived as such. So yeah, I've faced lots of numerous issues when I went out to assist residents with this type of issue.
Councillor, I know we got 5 minutes left with you. And when I was planning what to discuss with you and Asad today, I'm just going to go through the 18 issues that I felt were problematic.
Okay.
But I want your closing comments to touch on 1 or 2 of the 18 issues I'm raising, because it will take 3 hours to complete this thing.
Okay.
Incorrect meter readings for water and electricity, we dealt with it. Asad mentioned that there's a problem. People are guessing, and it's happening across the board because of lazy meter readers, etc. Billing issues, you've covered it, because from your perspective, the officials there could be incompetent and it could be inexperienced, and whether laziness creeps in, it could be a factor. Frequent burst water pipes, we've covered it in Ward 31 now. That has been the order of the day. It's not going to be sorted out until you get the right caliber of contractors and people to deal with it. Sabotage of substations. Fortunately, we don't have load shedding. That was the order of the day with the substations. I just read an article now that in the Sydenham area, there's a lot of sabotage taking place by contractors to generate work for themselves. Digging of roads to repair underground stormwater and water leaks, roads not attended to in Hartley, in Ridge Road, etc. You're seeing that being the order of the day. And Abdul mentions in Brickfield Road all the time where manhole covers are being lifted, people are meeting accidents, and ORA raised that several times. Numerous potholes which are not being repaired, that's the order of the day. Street lights frequently not working. Abdul says they repair one street, the next street goes off, and that street is on for 1 week and it goes off again because of tampering of electricity meters, etc. Metropol is spending long hours issuing fines in built-up areas at the neglect of urgent responses in crime issues and traffic jams. You never see them in those areas. Verges are not being pruned and dirt in gutters, resulting in stormwater blockages. Staff not responding to telephone calls, nor providing adequate response to raised electricity and water queries. People phone the call center. They're being pushed from pillar to post. Nobody knows what's happening. It takes days. They just throw their bill down and forget about it, hoping for the best. No consequences in terms of fraud, corruption, maladministration because of CIRU reports. Recommendations not being dealt with timeously. Top management are party to the culprits implicated. Budgets, grants are not being distributed equitably and not being spent timeously. Officials are not at work and are busy involved in maladministration elsewhere and only return to office home time as per the previous mayor. He came into my show and mentioned it. Feedback on ERPM meeting with mayor, I think Asad covered that. Monitoring mechanisms that NGOs, ratepayers associations have with the eThekwini municipality regarding deliverables. ORA will chat with that a little bit later, but they have been talking about the issue. Section 154 intervention versus presidential task team intervention. Any value outcomes? There's a question mark there. Value for money on rates and taxes being paid. There's a question mark there. Section 139 administration, will this be effective? There's a question mark. Competencies, experience of current management hierarchy from city manager downwards, any intervention corrections. Now, I'm not sure you've got 5 minutes whether you want to touch on any of these issues as a closing comment, Councillor. Or unless what I'm raising here is incorrect, I'm not sure.
I think everything that you've raised there is correct. And I think we need to begin with the basics. And the basics would be the structure of the ward. The structure of the ward is the councillor, the ward committee, stakeholders, the ratepayers, and CPF. I think if all these structures work together and not against each other, we would be able to hold the municipality accountable. And it's not about holding the councillor accountable, because the councillor should be holding the municipality accountable together with the ratepayers. Now, we have a structure, a very important structure in the ward that I have formed. In the Sydenham area and the Overport area, we have street representatives in each street, not covering every single street, but most of the streets are covered. So in real time, we get the issues that we need to attend to. We collate that information and we send it to the department. It's up to the department now to make sure that they implement, which sometimes is not happening. And that is the structure. If we follow that basic structure, and I encourage residents to send emails, CC me in those emails, complaining, lodging complaints, getting reference numbers in real time. I also have a service delivery a group that has officials on that group who give us real-time reference numbers so that we can escalate in real time. But the problem is also that there is a lack of resources. The tools of trade, if you do not have the tools of trade to do the actual work, how do you do the work? Yes, some of the officials are very incompetent, but some of them really do their work. I have a team that is so amazing that when I request for feedback, they do. And then sometimes on the groups, when we request for feedback, they don't. So there are officials that really want to work, and there are officials that don't work. But they're also pressurized by the ones that don't work, because now they've got to do an extra amount of work. So there's a cycle, and it's a vicious cycle, because even we as councillors, we're not safe, because when we raise objections or we raise issues and we fight the drugs is not my forte. It's not under my...
It's SAP's forte, yes.
It's SAP's. But I've personally taken it into account where we have managed to actually bring a block of flats out of drugs. They are now painting their flats. They are now doing things because why? I've put a structure in place and they're working with me. So today, in my closing remarks, I would like residents to work with me, get involved. Because if you don't get involved in your area and you complain, nothing's going to be done. But if you get involved and you say, how do I make a difference? How do I bring change? How do I bring resolutions? Or how do I fix or manage and bring the solutions to the table? That is what we need. And instead of we do have good ratepayers associations, and we have those that just want power and become politically inclined. There's no time for politics. There is no time for politics. Work with me as a councillor. Come to our ward committee meetings. See how you can make a difference. Give input so that we can give input into the IDP budget to be included in that budget. Because if we're only complaining on the sidelines and we're not making submissions to the councillor for her to take to the speaker's office, it's not going to work. So that structure does work. It's just that, as Mr. Ashok said, we need to have a separate conversation as to how these structures work to actually get things implemented in the community. My last comments would be that, we get a CIP budget. The CIP budget I'm using now for POX, because POX is not actually utilizing their budget accordingly. So I've had to upgrade the parks, fence the parks, because of the certain social elements or the ills within the community where people are defecating in the parks and so forth. So there is work being done. It's on a much slow pace because the budget is not there. They either cut budgets and so forth, which makes it difficult for the departments to actually do their work. So there's a lot of challenges that it's not just officials that are incompetent, but there's more challenges on the table that actually make it difficult for us to do our work. So my encouragement would be, let us do this, let us be united, and let us stand together and hold the municipality accountable, because they are the ones that we need to hold accountable. Even in council, we can hold them accountable this far, because when we vote, remember, it depends on the votes per item. So when you're voting on an item, not everybody is going to support something that certain item. So as much as they say you are all in council and y'all are responsible, but we are responsible. But if the other parties are not voting with us for, say, we vote against the tariff increase, if the other parties are saying yes to it and the majority is yes, then it goes through and there's nothing we can do. But we are fighting. We're fighting against the tariff increase. We've actually got a campaign as the DA where we're fighting against tariff increase and electricity hikes and so forth. We also have a war room that's just been implemented. Ward 31 has never had a war room. We have a war room now that is functional, just that we haven't had meetings because of the elections and so forth. We are going to start having meetings again. And in the war room, we call these departments together where they are answerable to the residents. So when we do set out a meeting date for residents to attend, I would like residents to attend these war room meetings because officials are there and they are answerable. So there's all the areas are represented on the war room. We have the ORA, we have the Sydenham Ratepayers Association, we have Musgrave, and we have Sydenham Ratepayers Association. So they're all represented there. And together we can do it. Together we can implement and we can make sure that our ward receives the services that they're supposed to.
Most certainly. I think your dedication to the ward itself, is complimented. Just a parting advice to you from my perspective is the advantage you have now is that, the politics of the different wards is now something of the past, with MK coming to the fore and the ANC being badly split. Previously, the ruling party was biased towards those wards that voted the ANC, but with the GNU, there's a different ball game being played. So here's an opportunity for you as a councillor of Ward 31 to get what we call a share of the adjustment budget that would be coming about in January. Prioritize your CapEx or your capital budgets and operating budgets for Ward 31 and the different wards, and put it to the CFO and the Speaker, so that when an adjustment budget is done, the money that's not spent in another ward can be put into this ward for improving service delivery. Work closely with the different portfolio committees so that, you can achieve your objective that could come up in the war room and in your meetings with the civic associations. This is just a parting advice from my understanding how politics work in the municipality. And the biggest advantage you have is the GNU, which obviously will start being rolled out into municipalities come 2026. So I wish you everything the best, councillor. Work closely with your ratepayers associations, and I'm sure you'll get the necessary success going forward. We look forward to having you interviewed once again in a month's time, where we'll ask you to respond to certain service delivery challenges, hoping that something will happen in terms of Section 139, in terms of this presidential task team. And if they do go into administration, which I firmly believe they should, so that you have a new administration that will gear the city towards improving service delivery, although it is basically a painful decision, But that's what's required in the eThekwini, like Pietermaritzburg, and politicians must steer clear and allow the administrators to run the city. Your final comments, Councillor.
The final comments, I know that there's a burning issue with regards to the roads, especially Brickfield, Randalls Road and Sparks Road. Those are burning issues. And I can assure you that we have been consulting with the engineering department and the roads department, and we were assured and even shown a map of what they want to do with the traffic circles and so forth. I think if those roads are upgraded, then our areas would be looking much more better. There's not a lot to do in Ward 31, but basically just upgrading the facilities and the roads and so forth. And I think we can get our ward looking like Mhlanga.
Well, this is a tip of how to achieve that one. From my understanding of local government finances, you have two types of road maintenance. One is upgrading, which takes place once every 20 years when a road needs upgrading. So what they do is they dig up that road, block off a portion like what they're doing in the sort of M13s and what have you, and then they resurface, and those roads run for another 20 years. And then maintenance means they deal with the potholes, etc. So you need to establish when last those roads were upgraded instead of maintenance, and that will give you an indication whether you need a capital budget to deal with those issues.
That's what we actually done. Like, for instance, Randalls Road is categorized as a beyond maintenance. And
Okay, so you need to upgrade. So you need to establish from the roads department what they need to upgrade and look for a capital budget in terms of the adjustment budget that must work out. And they must transfer funds from a particular ward to another ward. Those councillors obviously will fight for it there. But if yours is a priority because of the rate space being high, you win the game. And use the GNU ticket. So, Councillor, all the best. But
Okay.
we'll have a chat with you in a month's time.
Thank you so
Thank you very
much.
much for joining us.
God bless.
We really appreciate your input and we enjoyed your interview.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much. That was Councillor Ramona McKenzie, the councillor for Ward 31. She gave us a candid update. I think we have Imran Subrati on the line. We will be interviewing him shortly. I want to welcome our resident economist stroke asset manager, Hassan Mutala. Hassan, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to News in Focus as usual.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Hassan, before we interview Brother Imran Subrati, the markets are flying at the moment. The Rand is now sitting at 1712, the best in a whole lot of years, could be as long as 3 or 5 years. Sure. JSE has gone beyond 84,000, reaching 85,000. Pension funds are really, going high and high. People that got investments in the equity market are smiling all the way to the bank. Economists are really looking quite, happy. And if it continues at this rate, something good that's happening in the country.
Sure.
Now, what's your comments, Hassan, quickly before we get into chat with Ibrahim Subrati?
Sure, quickly. I think very importantly, we've had the equity markets in particular have been very strong over the last couple of weeks. But this week, the past 2 weeks in particular, you've had the benefit, firstly, of the rate cut that took place at the end of last week in South Africa, the 25 basis points that the Reserve Bank cut. But also this week, very importantly for South Africa, China introduced massive stimulus measures. So massive stimulus measures for their economy, to revive their economy. They're looking at some monetary policy easing where they're reviving their property market, their construction market, and also easing in terms of lending and borrowing in that particular country. Remember, we are a big exporter of many resources to China. With the result, JSE today hitting 86,000 points, the highest ever, being driven largely by our resources companies. So the likes of the BHPs, Kumba Iron Ore, Anglo American, all having a very strong day, up between 5 and 10% today, just those companies as well. So the benefit of not necessarily the GNU, and we'll expand on that later in terms of how the GNU has been working and some of the positive impacts. But I think largely because of, firstly, the rate cut, both in South Africa and in America. Last week, a 0.5% cut that took place in America by the Federal Reserve. South Africa was 0.25%. But also this week, the announcement by China of a massive, massive stimulus to the economy, which basically benefits us. The key for us, though, is that we need to export. And until we get the rail and our ports and the like going through, we're not going to get the full benefit of that. So we're going to get the demand is going to come through. Whether we'll be able to export as much. To put it into perspective, currently, if you're looking at where our exports are, we're still one-third lower pre-COVID levels. And that's mainly because of the impact of the poor infrastructure, the poor rail, the poor ports issues. But there's hope, because you can see since December through to now, the ports are slowly improving. There's a reduction in terms of the waiting times, and the congestion has eased off from November, December through to now. So slowly some improvement there. And the rail, I think it slowly will come through, but it's going to be time, because you need firstly this cable theft and the impact, the sabotage that's been happening and the theft that's been taking place on our rail networks has been on a scale unprecedented over our last 30 years. So it takes time to address that. And then secondly, our locomotives and the like, they're starting to bring through some, but it'll take time to get through at that level as well.
I want to chat with Brother Imran Subrati, who's on the line live from Cape Town. Imran, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to News in Focus live on Radio Al Ansar International.
Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Yunus, Jazakallah, and thank you for having me again.
Imran, shukran for joining us. And, I know you give us updates on what's happening. You just heard from our economists that the economic markets are booming, and it could be various reasons, including the efficient functioning of the GNU. But you also may have listened to some of the comments that, the ward councillor, Ward 31, was mentioning some of the challenges. And the eThekwini municipality at the moment has a Section 139 intervention, 154 intervention together with the presidential task team, and there's a call for placing the municipality under administration. Now, from the national perspective, any breaking news that you could share with our listeners, Imran?
Yeah, thank you, Yunus, firstly for having me on your show again. And it's always useful to catch up with what's going on in eThekwini through your show, and it's always becoming a very informative and looked after show. So I must compliment you for really providing meaningful contributions to our community through your show. Yunus, what's going on at the moment? Firstly, let me just comment on the great and positive news that I heard through The Economist. And this is really heartening. We must always remember that the president has highlighted 3 apex priorities of the 7th administration. And those 3 apex priorities are building an inclusive economy and in reducing unemployment. The second one was reducing the cost of living and fighting poverty. And the third was building a capable, able, and development state. Now, what we're seeing happening here, and I might not be answering your question directly, but I think it's worthy of a comment and an observation. The really amazing news that we're seeing happening right now focuses directly on this middle apex priority, and that is reducing the cost of living and fighting poverty. The fact that the rate is sitting at 17 Rand 20, I think, today, 17.12, it's phenomenal. And I've been watching that very, very closely, and I think today is a phenomenal. The fact that the interest rate has dropped by 25 base points, that's a significant reduction, and an amount of cash that's going back into the pockets of our people. And if you look at the way the fuel price has been going, and I think it's probably going to be as low as the rates we had in March, April 2022. And also the fact that load shedding is continuing. We are continuing to have consistent power supply. All this contributes towards a very stable government, towards a government that is genuinely committed to making things work. And I heard you mention to the councillor earlier that yes, the GNU is definitely something that is working. It's working well for our country. I think importantly is I think every single political party, and I might even want to add that even in the committees we fight, and that even that what we would call in inverted commas the opposition are also pulling together and understanding that the role of opposition cannot be what we had seen in the past, where they become naysayers and they become people who only object and object to everything, even when it's of merit. But the purpose and the job of opposition must be to meaningfully contribute to conversations within committees. And I'm seeing this starting to happen. And I'm very optimistic about that. Alhamdulillah, I really am seeing, I've been now here in 3 months, I've seen a phase where there was total disorderliness. And now suddenly the gradient is moving towards a far more stable committees. People are focusing towards achieving outcomes. And what's phenomenal, and if you say it's breaking news, I think the fact that we're holding executives and we're holding entities, there's been a lot of entity oversight over entities. For example, over the ESCOMs, over the SABCs, over Postbank, over Post Office, etc. So in different portfolio committees, a lot of the oversight engagement has taken place with entities or public entities, and the robust level of accountability that is taking place is phenomenal. The fact that committees are having candid conversations that they never had. I mean, I've had a minister come up to me, a deputy minister come up to me and tell me, Honorable Member, please hold us accountable. Hold us accountable, make us accountable. We must account to you. And that is a phenomenal, and this is not an opposition party. This is a member from my own party. It tells me, please hold us accountable. So yes, Yunus, I think for me, the breaking news is that the great things are happening within the political space. I think we're seeing a lot more progress. And alhamdulillah, for me, the greatest news, if I were to quote what the president had said yesterday at the Heritage Day address to the United Nations, that for me is the breaking news, where President Cyril Ramaphosa has put to rest all the naysayers that, South Africa is fully behind the people of Palestine. And as he had alluded to in his speech, that the structure of the United Nations Security Council, the format of it has to alter if it is to serve the nations of the world. Yesterday, he said that this format has to change. The United Nations Security Council can't remain the way it is. We have to there has to be fundamental changes within the United Nations to make it relevant. And for me, that is the breaking news. To hear my president say it openly on a United Nations platform that we're fully behind the people of Palestine, this insanity, this injustice must cease and cease immediately. And the fact that he's called for a wide range of reform within the United Nations Council, for me, that was really heartening news. Yes, Yunus, over to you.
Yes, just one more question before you close up, Imran. I know you had a busy day, and Brother Abdul was telling me, you're working flat out to catch up, on the years gone by that others were involved, and it's catch up time so that you could then, have meaningful contribution towards the meetings and debates. In terms of your personal experiences, you've just been there for a few months. Can you just share with us some of your experiences in Parliament? Because you are fortunate that, you have what we call the JNU, and you have cooperation from the other political parties, and everybody has got one focus, how to ensure that the citizens of this country benefit from the administration in government. So perhaps you just want to share with us for a few minutes, what's your experiences there, and, what do you look forward to being in Parliament?
Yunus, let me just recall for the last week. There's so much happening every day. I mean, just to give you an idea, Yunus, on Friday we went into what we call a constituency recess, and one would expect at a constituency recess, things are okay. You take it a bit easy on a Friday, but I mean, Friday morning, the first thing I could tell you to give you an evidence-based report back is that Friday previously was considered to be a travel day for MPs. No longer. Friday is a full working day. For example, I have 2 committees on Friday. If one is not sitting, I'm on another committee. You offer the Standing Committee Auditor General, where I am the whip for the African National Congress, sits on Friday. So first and foremost, we are working extremely hard. I mean, I work on a Friday right till around about Zohar time till Jummah time. Then I try and catch a later flight back home. This Friday evening from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., yes, Yunus, from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., we had a caucus engagement of our party discussing what are our approach, how and what is constituency? How do you run constituency offices? What are the KPIs? What are we supposed to be achieving within? So the work ethic and the attitude towards work, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of seriousness. Alhamdulillah, I had the good fortune in the Tuesday last week, we have what you call members' statements, in which political members of parliaments make certain statements that affects the country, affects the communities that are of a nature, and we have this opportunity. So Alhamdulillah, I had the opportunity of amplifying the voice of Natal Indian Congress. I delivered a member statement that was very, very well received at Parliament, wherein I celebrated the 130 years anniversary of the Natal Indian Congress. I mentioned the sacrifices made by the Natal Indian Congress, and I reminded Parliament that Natal Indian Congress, NIC, was a significant part of the Congress movement, and it was a significant player in the freedom that we enjoy. So for me, that was a significant ability to stand up as a brown person, be able to say, as a person from the minority, and express a contribution that the NIC had done. In the same day, it was, I think, I also had the opportunity of defending, presenting a budget speech on the vote on the approval of the salaries of the Auditor General, which is approved by Parliament. And as the ANC whip in the Standing Committee, I delivered a speech, and in it I had the opportunity of highlighting in my speech, in the introduction, the role that former Minister Comrade Praveen Gordhan played in the South African democracy, particularly how mindful he was of the requests by the Auditor General, and he ensured during his time as Finance Minister that those concerns of the AG was addressed, and I paid credit to his contribution. And not surprisingly, I was called to order by one of the political parties that I am speaking about, freedom fighters, etc. And that was irrelevant, and it was very relevant, because if it was not for our freedom fighters, we would not be in Parliament where we are today. So Alhamdulillah, I had that opportunity. These were amongst my personal highlights, where I constantly amplify the voices of our community. And I have another project that I'm going to do, inshallah, when Parliament reconvenes in a week's time, regarding a particular child that I attended her funeral in Durban, a young Zara Ramsamy who was passed away. I committed that I will amplify her voices, and I plan to raise the voice of Zara Ramsamy to amplify the voices of many Zara Ramasamis in the country, where little children are living in an environment that's unsafe and insecure with violence and crime. I intend to raise that. And in addition to that, I serve in two committees. I serve, as I mentioned earlier, to the Auditor General in the work there. I'm also the whip in the Communications and Digital Technologies Department. And on Monday, we are hosting a very, very significant workshop, how we can use the digitization to make an inclusive economy. I'm also, this is very significant, alhamdulillah, and I'm deeply humbled by this deployment. I'm also the cluster whip for what we call the GME cluster. The government has 4 clusters. There's the economic cluster 1 and 2. There's the governance and monitoring, and the peace and security cluster. The governance and monitoring cluster includes ministries such as COGTA, women, children, and youth, and people with disabilities, public service administration, SCOPA, planning, monitoring, and evaluation. So all these ministries sit in the GME cluster. I am the whip also of the GME cluster, or within the ANC, and I think tomorrow I have a meeting of the GME cluster, in which we will be presenting our questions to the president, because when Parliament resumes, the president will be coming to Parliament to answer questions. We will be presenting questions, and I manage that question that will be forwarded to the president. There's a huge responsibility. In the week gone by, I was supposed to attend SABC. There was some licensed public hearings, but I was deployed to attend to interviews, because we had a whole host of vacancies. We re-advertised posts because our numbers in caucus are very different, with the 40%. So I've been deployed by my chief whip to be part of the interview panel. So alhamdulillah, Yunus, we're really working hard both within the Parliament, within our political party. And I like to think of myself as part of the renewal, and I'm deeply humbled to serve our country, and I'm deeply humbled to serve the political party that I am.
Oh, thank you very much, Imran, for giving us an update. I think you basically adding value to exactly what's happening in Parliament. I just want to remind you that when you were talking about freedom fighters, you're not referring to the economic freedom fighters. So, Imran, I think we will keep in touch with you from time to time to give us an update on what's happening in Parliament. But I think you're sharing with us some very interesting information, and it's tying up with the issues that are being raised here. We wish you everything of the best in your endeavors there, Imran, and we hope to have you live in the studio when you come back to Durban in due course.
Thanks, Yunus. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity that I also appreciate because, it allows us the opportunity to really bring Parliament to the people. And that's what the essence of it. The essence is not that parliamentarians must be sitting in Parliament and there's no feedback to communities. And alhamdulillah, through the radio waves and airwaves of Radio Al Ansar and through your program particularly, it affords me this opportunity to make people aware what is going on in Parliament and, so that we can close that gap and we can work meaningfully together with our communities to make a difference. Jazakallah once again for having me on your show, Yunus.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That was Brother Imran Subrati live from National Government in Cape Town, giving us an update on the situation there. I'd like to bring back Brother Hassan Mutala. Hassan, you mentioned that the JSE powers through 86,000 points. The price of petrol will be coming down in October by R1.70 a litre, and others to just over R1. And it's come down by more than R4 in the last couple of months. And at the same time, you mentioned that this impacts on the cost of living. Now, with the petrol price coming down and the transport costs hopefully dropping, it has been noted that, are these transport costs really coming down to reduce the cost of, a trolley of goods?
Sure. To put into perspective, so as at the end of the September price cut that we had a few weeks back, so hopefully we're going to get over R1 next week. We'll only know early next week. 20% decline year on year. So you've had a 20% decline in the petrol price year on year. Petrol makes up close to 5% of the inflation baskets. So it's a big amount. So the fact that you've had a 20% decline year on year for something that makes up close to 5% just on its own in terms of just transport costs alone, it's a significant impact. Then there's the related impact from that. It feeds through in terms of food. It feeds through in terms of various other products and services that we partake, consume in as well. So it has a related, that's why inflation dropped to one of the lowest levels we've seen in a long time, last week at 4.4%, and allowed the Reserve Bank to cut rates last week. So definitely the lower oil price, but also the strengthening of the rand has had a fantastic impact on us over the last 2 to 3 months. If it continues, or if at least if you get this, say, a rand at least next month, that trend should continue. So in terms of firstly transport costs coming down, but feeding through again towards both food and the other services, again, we could get closer to 4% in terms of inflation in the next 2 to 3 months or so. Again, that's more money in the back pocket for consumers out there. Secondly, when inflation comes down, it gives the Reserve Bank more power to cut rates. So the Reserve Bank was pretty cautious in only cutting 0.25%. They could potentially, they see inflation's easing closer towards 4% in the next month or 2 months. They could cut another 0.25 or another 0.5% by December. That means in December, as we're going into our holiday period, we'll have lower petrol prices, hopefully. So that means transporting and going on holidays throughout the country becomes cheaper. And then secondly, more money in our back pocket, because instead of spending more on our mortgage for either the house or the car or the home loans or the personal loans, we'll have more money to spend in terms of clothing, spending on going out to tourism, things like that. There'll be more, again, reviving the economy as well. there's always a knock-on effect of that. As lower inflation, it feeds through in terms of other areas. So I think those are very important things to highlight, is that we could see the benefits of that in terms of the consumer spending reviving as we hitting towards the Black Friday and the November, and then the December period, particularly the spending in the end of the year and the holiday period. Looking at the drivers of this. So we've had the drivers has been largely the lower oil price globally. That's got nothing to do with the GNU. Lower oil price globally has got largely to do with the fact that you've had supply being relatively stable, but demand from China has eased off. So with the result, we went from $94 all the way now close to $70 a barrel. A big impact, that is. And then secondly, the Rand. The Rand, again, not the sole impact of the GNU. Yes, there is a positive sentiment that has come through in terms of South Africa and the like, but it's largely because of dollar weakness. The dollar has weakened against all currencies globally, whether it's the euro, the pound, other major emerging market currencies.
What's the reason for that?
So the reason for that is the interest rates have now been cut in the US. So remember, like how we cut 0.25.
People are investing elsewhere.
People are taking it elsewhere.
Mhm.
Also, bearing in mind, people are also concerned that the US has become highly indebted, and then also the political, while we've had political instability and we had the issues around our elections. You've had it also in India. You've had it in other major emerging markets, Russia, whatever. People are also concerned about the likes of a Donald Trump and a Kamala Harris as well. Both of them not the best and most suitable candidates you could think of.
And their
But the
support,
fact is,
support of Israel in this war against
there's
the
no
Palestine.
difference really between who they both come out. They try and outdo each other in terms of, we do this for Israel and we'll do this for Israel, but don't give a damn about what's happening elsewhere. I mean, you look at today, was it yesterday or today, Anthony Blinken lied to Congress. It was noted by two U.S. Agencies that aid was being blocked by Israel into Gaza. By not the other foreign agencies, but two U.S. agencies that noted that. He had blocked it prevented it by being noted into Congress. And he lied to Congress that the aid is flowing into Gaza to allow more arms to flow back into Israel. So they're not doing anything to help the people in Gaza, and now more recently as well, Lebanon as well. They're just enhancing it, and they're continuing to support this genocide that's continuing. Coming back to the issue around, yes, the US dollar has weakened, and it has obviously had a related impact on other currencies. But the GNU, what it is doing though, it is creating more optimism in terms of investment coming back into the country and within the country. To put that into perspective. So you've seen, for example, ArcelorMittal. Last year, we're talking about closing 1 or 2 plants in Newcastle and Vereniging. They've reversed their decisions. That's 50,000 jobs that saved. That's a positive impact. You see Toyota adding in a $70 million auto parts facility. Just 2-3 years ago, Toyota, after the whole floods we had, remember Toyota's facility in Prospecton was a nightmare, and then you had the riots that took place. Toyota's confidence went exceptionally low in KZN in particular, and they thought they were going to basically exit the country. Now they're talking about adding a new facility. Confidence has renewed from a major auto parts player in this country and in our province. Thirdly, Qatar Airways buying a stake in SAA Link. SAA is still a disaster. We talked about last week about 30 odd billion that has flown into them over the 5 years, and we haven't really seen the benefit. But SAA Link has got now Qatar Airways has taken a 25% stake in it. This is one of the world premier airlines has taken a stake in our region operator. That means the region operator should do fantastically in terms of the SADC and other areas traveling into Africa, and should benefit. We would benefit for that, more people coming into the country and then flowing into other African countries as well. Again, another benefit. But you're seeing also the mining sector reviving all of a sudden. Anglo American PLC, talking about over a $600 million iron ore investment. Mining sector slowly starting to revive as well. So you are seeing that this perceived, hopefully, time will tell whether it's a improvement in terms of this GNU relative to the old ANC government. But the perceivedness is that there's a lot more confidence in this, and that they will drive in terms of improvement by providing stability into the country in terms of policies and the like. Also, some of the appointments that are taking place, Park Stow, he was on the trip now with the president into the US. Remember, the president, in the space of a month, he's visited the two biggest economies in the world, China 3 weeks ago and the US currently. What it's telling you, he's going to sell South Africa to the two big economies. He's saying we're open for business. He's saying, come, we're giving you some policy stability. We're going to sort it out. We've now got a broader government, a diversified government, and cabinet positions by different parties as well. Come and do business with us. And one of the things he's tried to encourage is that AGOA to be renewed again for another long period. That's and obviously encouraging. He met with, I don't like him personally, but I mean, and many of us won't like him because of his views of his views of the world, and in particular about some of the Middle East and what's happening. But he met with Elon Musk. Whether we like him or not, Elon Musk is the founder and CEO of major companies, Tesla being one, but Starlink, X, and SpaceX. Those are big companies that are already.
He's a former South African also.
He's a former South African, but he's got a, we'll not mention, I mean, people can see in the media what his tendencies tend to be, and his outbursts and the likes that he tweets, on a regular basis as well. But the fact is, it could drive investments of the likes of, for example, what you call SpaceX or Starlink in particular. Starlink is a massive satellite platform that encourages communications and the like, and it's an alternative to your normal telcos. So it could provide investment into the country and bring in, and even if he could set up another battery plant within South Africa, encouraging jobs and the like. So there is a potential, and he had a closed door meeting with the president and Park Stow while he was there, which tells you potential for opportunities and investment coming through. So the president is on a roadshow to drive investment, and he started with the two biggest economies in the world, which tells you they're now focusing on driving investment. And the Rand is doing its part in terms of strengthening as well, which is good. It's good because it encourages, people like to see a stable currency. They don't like, yes, okay, it's cheap to come in when the Rand's at 80, but the fact is, foreign investors like to see a stable currency, because if they get in and when they get out, there's confidence that they're getting out at a similar type of level and not having to worry about the Rand going from 18 to 25 or 30, they're losing out after that. So it's an important point as well. Secondly, locally, private sector is now becoming more active again. They've been, the last decade, they've held back a bit. But in the last 2 years, firstly, we saw it in the energy side. When last did we see proper load shedding? Long time. We've had outages here, there, especially in Morningside, Musgrave. We've had it in the last 2 weeks or so. But load shedding per se, we haven't seen it now for 120 days or 100. I don't know. It's a good.
It's something of the past.
Something of the, and it's a combination of, firstly, private sector investment with the public, the solar panels across households, but also in the corporate and the commercial sector. The amount of alternative energy investment that has taken place in the last 2 years is substantial, and it has benefited us in terms of providing some level of stability on the energy supply. The big issue we're still facing is that the costs, and particularly related to energy, but also these municipalities and the rates and the taxes. That's the biggest challenge we still face. Eskom has tabled a 36% increase for electricity for the coming year. That's ridiculous. That is mad. How can you put in 36% increase when consumers are under pressure?
You can't afford the current.
You can't afford the
costs.
current. How you get your debt sorted out first, collect from those that are owing you, and then your financial position improves, become a bit more efficient. If you've got a bloated workforce, slowly cut it off, but improve, get the efficiencies there. You cannot impress 36% and expect people to just take it and carry on. It's unheard of. But expect a double-digit increase. So that will still hurt, I think, in 2015. The second point is the rates and taxes. I mean, if you look at the budgets of the major eThekwini, we'll focus on eThekwini because we live here, we breathe here, we know what's happening here. It's a disaster, and hence the whole Mike Sutcliffe getting in there and trying to sort it out. But the reality is, we could see again, they want to push through again double-digit type of increases on us across the board, and they fought. The ratepayers associations have fought on our behalf to try and get that back during this. But they're going to have to fight again because they're going to come try and push through. The issue is, again, the bloated workforce, the lack of necessary skills remains one of the big issues. And Yunus, you've highlighted many issues. That seminar you hosted a couple of weeks ago again highlighted some of those challenges around the skills that's required. You get the right skills, you'll sort it out. And spending, the fact that sometimes that there's R1 billion that's left over and not spent is a crime, is a sin. The money is there, spend it efficiently and adequately where it's required. And particularly on infrastructure and maintenance is our biggest issue. And until we sort that out, it's going to be, and one thing I'm a bit more optimistic, and it's still a big issue, but I'm getting more optimistic day by day, is that the police force and the particularly in KZN, you can see in the last 3 months there is a revival in terms of trying to address crime. You're seeing it. Go and have a look in the newspapers in the last 3 months, any articles and the like, and see the number of armed robbers, CIT related or kidnapping and whatever, that have either been arrested or have been neutralized. There's been many, which is telling you that the police are saying, we've had enough now. We need to put the safety and security of our citizens first, and we need to do what we need to do to protect them. And you slowly start, still there's huge amount of crime, we're not going to say that, but at least now you're seeing there's some effort to try and address that. And that at least gives people confidence, again, to invest and want to put back into property and the like going forward. So I think there is some positivity coming through. It's a combination of things. Don't be just be sold by what some of the media outlets want to sell you on just the GNU. The GNU is some part of it, but there are other things being worked around that are obviously making progress and helping and contributing towards this as well.
Thank you, Hassan, for such valuable contribution on the economic front. Just to sum up, we ran out of time in our program today. We had a very interesting discussion with Asad Ghaffar at the start. We highlighted the ratepayers' concerns and progress made. ORA, I'll ask them to sum up now the closing comments. They also indicated that by being civic active, you can get the municipality to start improving service delivery. Hassan mentioned now, together with Subrati, that there is accountability and there's positive economic spin-offs. I think in our next meeting or next program, we're going to hone in on how the government needs to deal with unemployment, which is sitting at 35%, so that once you create employment opportunities, people will earn incomes to start paying for services. How do we start attacking the tax rate and see if we can bring that down? How we can reduce fruitless and irregular expenditure? Because if you take the municipality and they have an operating budget or a total budget of 60 billion, if 10% of that budget is maladministration and corruption, which accounts for 6 to 7 billion, if they can deal with that issue, they can plow back the savings by controlling maladministration and corruption back to the economy, which will ensure that the cost of services can reduce and take care of the poorest of the poor who can't afford these tariff increases. So those are the kind of subjects we will be dealing with in forthcoming programs. But before I close this evening, I'd like to ask Brother Abdul Valodia from the ORA to give us his closing comments. Abdul, listening to the various initiatives that various ratepayer organizations have taken, I think your organization has taken a bold stand to improve service delivery, and you make sure you're on top of any kind of challenges that this ward is facing, and it echoes into the other wards. And your close rapport with the government departments has brought you success. Perhaps you want to give us in 2 minutes your closing comments.
Okay, Yunus, as I'm sitting here currently at the station, I'm actually busy still with the water outages, and we still got people on ground, on the site actually trying to assist and turn on valves and make sure that people in the greater Ward 31 has their water tonight. Water's been shut off for almost 16 hours. And, we are still working. So, if you noticed, you've seen I've been busy with my
This is what civic activism is about.
Yes, yeah.
To make sure that you held the municipality accountable to restore services.
100%. As you know, councillors with us, on air at the station. But while council is there as well, we all are working. We've got
and your
people on the
residents
ground.
are raising it all the time. Water
Yes.
hasn't been restored. We're battling.
Yes. So if you watch the group yourself, which you on is as well, you'll see the communication. In fact, we've got people that's right now, the municipalities out there waiting for feedbacks, for the residents to update us and tell us which areas they don't have water to make sure that those valves are turned on, right? So there's been a hell of a lot of valves that were shut off due to this major, burst that went off. And, we just hope and pray that this evening, before we go to bed, people will be restored back, people will have the water. Now, this is activism.
Definitely.
Right? And if we don't find people like us, myself, Ashok, and our EXCO and the members that's out there, and even the community, and even there's also people that came on board and assisting us, there's not even involved in the organization.
To the municipality,
Yes.
to contact the municipality, to give you all updates of the different areas.
Exactly.
So that up to the late hours of the night that water has been restored,
Yes.
and then also other deliverables as
Yes.
well.
So this must be, every person should be doing the same thing. It shouldn't be left to me, to yourself, or Ashok, or anybody. It should be a commitment to everybody. Now you see an organization like ORA, we're on the ground, we're actually doing work. People should join, get involved, and they must put their efforts in it as well. We can only make this community better, and we can only make the city greater if everybody plays a role, and hands together. And there is also a few more interesting things that's coming on, hopefully. We want to find the businesses to help us and to, finance some of the issues that we're facing with. We want to put up security cameras. Once we get security cameras in Overport area, we can eliminate all the issues that we find with, regard to theft that's happening currently. A lot of people on a daily basis, when you watch the groups again, they have burglaries, they have, petty crimes. This has to come via activism again. We have to also support and put monies in place, and we cannot take monies out of our pocket. Currently, right now, if I have to speak to Ashok knows a lot of times we take out money from our own pockets and we fund this thing. That's what we've been doing. And I think people now must stop being this sitting out there and this, sitting with their phones. They need to play a part, and they need to be involved and active and join the ORA. Because if you don't get involved in associations, I can tell you guys, you're going to be left aside. And if you think you're going to be sitting and waiting for government to deliver, the guys are crazy, because we are the people on the ground and we are making the job to happen. And that's how we're getting delivery, like how Ashok sends emails out on a daily basis. If people spend time with us and they have to see what we do, every day, and the amount of emails that are sent out and the response. Ashok, I think you can touch on the roads, rehabilitation that's coming up. You've been working with the project from a long time, and let Ashok just give a feedback of his road story. Thank you, Yunus.
Ashok, you can continue. You got 2 minutes. Sorry, we don't have much time because we had a whole lot of issues we were dealing with. But Ashok, just a quick update on the road issues. I think what Abdul is alluding to is that business must get involved in this ward to assist in financing costs of certain voluntary services that are taking place, to hold government accountable, because a time will come where the right people will run government and the monies will be utilized effectively. But until that happens, the communities have to get involved. So quickly give us an update on the roads issue. Ashok?
Thank you very much. So on Ward 31, I'll give you one quick one, and that is Alpine Road. I've been in discussion with the municipality for about 6 weeks now, and eventually they've agreed to tar a certain portion of Alpine Road. I'll be meeting the officials tomorrow on the final layout of where it's going to start and where it's going to end. But we managed to win that, and that's a big win for us, because along Alpine Road, which we all know is a long road starting from the mosque at the bottom and climbing right up to the church at the top, the stormwater systems were blocked, the sewer systems were blocked, and they're all starting to get cleaned out, all due to the hard work that ORA has been putting in. And we are now seeing evidence of improvement taking place, and we are doing this across Ward 31, and we're not going to stop. We are on the ground every day, and that's it.
No, thanks very much, both Abdul and Ashok, for giving us an update. You guys are doing a sterling piece of work. I know I'm in that group. Right till the early hours of the morning, I see WhatsApps coming through. Sometimes when you don't check your WhatsApps, there's about 150 messages that are coming through. People are reporting things, housewives are reporting, which is good. It's an active group, which we spoke about, civic activism. I must thank Councillor Ramona for joining us, even Asad Ghaffar, even Imran Sabrati. Very, very important information was disseminated. And as usual, our economist, Hassan Motala, who's a chartered accountant, asset manager, he's smiling because his clients are all now, they got the thumbs up and the green light that our investments are bringing us returns. Let's hope the good economic fortunes continue. This program is designed to keep our listeners updated on topical issues, and I'm choosing service deliverables stroke local government because it's topical. As we speak, people are worried about having their water resumed, and Abdul and his team is giving Ward 31 residents update, and I think other wards, if they've got civic activists and ratepayer associations that are active, they must also get updates. On that note, it brings us to the end of News in Focus for this evening. My closing comment is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control. We must turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always make du'as that Allah inspires our leaders, those that are responsible for controlling the government. It's an amanat to run the government for the benefit of the people. But as Muslims, we have to keep up with our salah, keep up with our zikrullah, our ibadat, make du'as for our brothers and sisters in Palestine, in Lebanon, in various parts of the world where they're facing extreme difficulties. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes these mujahid successful in their endeavors to curtail oppression and to deal with those zalims that are causing problems to the Muslim ummah. We will meet once again or have a chat. A request is to make du'as for the ummah as well, du'as for those that are sick and ailing, and continue with our ibadat and keep away from guna. We will have a chat again next week, Wednesday. We will discuss some, topical issues. Until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
This dua for contentment with decree is